Creepy facts that will give 99% of you chills, part 2. More people die every year from taking selfies than are killed in shark attacks. So next time you are taking a selfie, be aware of your surroundings and be careful. Refrigerator doors are magnetic because children used to die inside them while playing hide and seek. These older model refrigerators could only be opened from the outside. So when the children hid in them and shut the door, there was no way of them getting out and they died. The reason why dogs love squeaky toys so much, because it triggers an ancestral instinct that reminds them of a whimpering prey. So next time you see your dog chewing on a squeaky toy, it actually thinks it's chewing on a dying animal crying for its life. People who spend more than 2 hours a day in front of a screen actually make their lives 1.4 years shorter. So I think some of us have to get off our phones for a little bit.
This is why you should be careful when letting dogs lick you. In May of 2019, Marie Traynor returned home from a Caribbean vacation with her husband. Since they were both away from their dogs for a while, their dogs were very excited to greet them with licks. But by the next night, Marie started to have some flu-like symptoms. She felt nauseous, achy, and had a fever. Once she got to that point, her husband just rushed her to the emergency room. Doctors quickly realized that Marie had sepsis, which is an immune response to infection, and her condition was deteriorating. She was put in a medically induced coma, and there was large blood clots forming, and this was restricting her blood flow. This caused doctors to amputate her arms and her legs. Marie was in a coma for 10 days. She had a total of 8 surgeries, and she was in the hospital for 80 days. But despite everything, she survived. And this all happened because one of Marie's dogs had infected a small scrape on her arm. The dog's saliva had a bacteria called Capnocytophaga. Despite everything that happened, Marie and her husband do not blame their dogs at all.
This mother drowned her baby in a bathtub to prove to her boyfriend that he was her top priority. 20-year-old Esperanza Ray has been charged with second-degree murder in the connection with her son's death. She initially claimed that her son died at a hospital on March 6th, but there was no record of the child ever being there. Esperanza then confessed to drowning and killing the boy, and then disposing of his body in a backpack, which she then threw away in the trash. And the crazy thing is, she allegedly did this because her boyfriend didn't like the child, and actually wanted her to put up her own son for adoption. Esperanza wanted to prove her loyalty to her boyfriend by prioritizing him over her own baby. She became upset at her son when he began to cry when she was bathing him. Esperanza texted her boyfriend indicating what she was going to do before she committed the awful act. A photo of the boy submerged in the bathtub was found on Esperanza's phone, and sadly, the young boy's body has yet to be found. Edwin Trudeau, who was Esperanza's boyfriend, was charged with aiding an offender after being an accomplice. This case is absolutely gut-turning, and how could somebody do this to their own son? Especially for someone that you're most likely not going to be with for the rest of your life. I will never understand these people's thought process when it comes to these cases. There was no reason for Esperanza to do this, like, at all. She really killed her baby boy because her boyfriend didn't like him. This is absolutely crazy, and may the young boy rest in peace.
The man with the iron lung has died today at 78 years old. He was one of the last people on the planet to use an iron lung after he contracted polio as a child, and he was coming up to a staggering 71 years trapped inside. His condition reportedly deteriorated during recent years, developing a persistent respiratory infection and pain in his legs and arms every time he moved. An update on his GoFundMe said that despite all of the reasons in the world to give up hope, Paul still went to college, became a lawyer, and a published author, writing every word of his 150-page memoir using his mouth to type with a stick. Because of his unbelievable resilience, his story went viral, positively impacting people around the world. He was once asked what his dream was, and he said to not let polio defeat him, but to defeat polio. And I think today it is safe to say he did exactly that.
Lauren was shot 15 times, and 8 of those shots were fatal. Emergency personnel arrived at the scene as well as local neighbors so that they could assist. At that point, no one had told Lauren's parents that she had been shot. Lauren's mom, Bianca, was unaware of what was going on and was just doing what she normally did, waiting at home for Lauren to arrive. But then, one of her friends pulled up to her house asking if Lauren was home yet. Her mom was confused about this question and responded and said, "No, why?" And the friend, in a panic, said, "Kids are down," and then left. So her mom, Bianca, didn't hesitate or even let her dad, Vern, know what she was doing, and she just booked it out the front door to make sure that it wasn't her child that was, quote, down. Lauren's dad, Vern, could tell that something was wrong because Bianca wasn't the kind of person to just jump up, flee the house without saying anything or indicating what was wrong. So he knew something was up. So he immediately hopped in his truck and he followed her. There were tons of police cars, ambulances, people, and now crime scene tape blocking the area off. So Bianca was just looking around in a complete panic, trying to see if Lauren was there while simultaneously trying to assess the situation and come to terms with what was going on, and that is when she laid eyes on Lauren. In that moment, her worst fears realized and her worst nightmares come true, seeing her daughter on the ground appearing to have been shot.
Yo, I just seen one of the most disturbing ways to be unalive. Check this out.
Sarah. That's my name. Don't wear it up. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
So here's the backstory. There's this Florida woman named Sarah Boone. She tricks her boyfriend into playing hide and go seek. So he hops up in the suitcase, and when he gets in there, she zips it up and locks him in. And she did that because he cheated on her. But the problem is she left his ass in there until the morning. And then he eventually was unalive because of asphyxia, which is crazy.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
For those who don't know, asphyxia is when your body's deprived of oxygen, then you just go unconscious and die.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
Oh. That's what I feel like when you drink on me.
Sarah,
You.
breathe, Sarah.
Yeah.
If your boyfriend or your girlfriend cheats on you, don't roll them in a suitcase like a pair of socks because your feelings hurt. Now he gone. You gonna be in jail for the rest of your life, probably washing somebody's socks.
You should probably shut the up.
Sarah.
And listen, he may not have been a good dude, but at the end of the day, nobody has a right to play God and just delete somebody from this planet. Especially in that cruel way, because that was fucked up.
This young woman's life was tragically taken after she traveled overseas to meet her virtual boyfriend. In 2021, Ashley Wadsworth, a 19-year-old from Vernon, Canada, embarked on a journey that tragically ended her life. The vibrant young woman had dreams of furthering her education at Thompson Rivers University. Everyone who knew Ashley said she radiated warmth and affection. As a birthday present, Ashley traveled to England to meet her virtual boyfriend, 23-year-old Jack Seppel. What began as a hopeful adventure soon turned into a nightmare. Initially, Ashley's social media post painted a picture of bliss as she explored Essex and London with Jack. However, the idyllic facade shattered when Ashley confided in a friend about her desire to cut short her stay and return to Canada, citing troubling circumstances. Unfortunately, tragedy struck on February 1st when Essex police responded to reports of a disturbance at the couple's residence. Inside, they discovered Ashley's lifeless body bearing multiple stab wounds. Shockingly, Jack exhibited the Grizzly seen to his sister via FaceTime. Despite the efforts of emergency services, Ashley unfortunately succumbed to her injuries. Jack Seppel was promptly arrested and charged with her murder. Later legal proceedings revealed chilling details of the crime. Despite initially pleading not guilty, Jack eventually confessed to the murder during a court hearing. In October 2022, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. During his sentencing, Judge Murray condemned Jack's heinous actions, describing the attack as brutal and cowardly. Ashley's family and friends, devastated by the loss of their beloved daughter, struggled to comprehend the senseless tragedy. To them, Ashley was a beacon of love and kindness, and her untimely death remains a profound and inexplicable loss.
I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! According to a recent lawsuit that was filed, P. Diddy might be a pedophile. This new lawsuit alleges that P. Diddy constantly held parties at his house that involved minors, adults who were assaulting these minors, male and female sex workers that were servicing everybody. And this lawsuit even alleges that P. Diddy himself spiked people's drinks at the party to get them looser and convince them to do whatever he wanted them to do. This lawsuit came from one of P. Diddy's former employees, a man nicknamed Little Rod. And this lawsuit is incredibly disturbing and paints a picture of Epstein-level allegations. Allegations that P. Diddy may have been involved in a trafficking ring of sorts. Allegations that P. Diddy forced his employees to go out and procure sex workers for him in his parties. Allegations that P. Diddy violently forced people to do things for him. Allegations that P. Diddy may have murdered people and admitted to it. Amongst many, many other allegations of assault, groping, and yeah, just so many different things. These are some really disturbing allegations, and while they haven't obviously been proven to be true in court yet, the team that actually put these allegations forward claims that they have hundreds of hours of video and audio evidence incriminating P. Diddy and his entire team in this string of illegal acts. I'm sure that this is going to be some really disturbing stuff. I'm going to be sure to cover this story as it unfolds more. And yeah, if this is all true, this is extremely dark and disturbing stuff, and I think that this web is going to spread very far across the music industry.
This UK true crime case is absolutely disgusting. On the 11th of December 2017, emergency services were called to a house fire. It was just before 5 AM in Walkden, England. Firefighters battled to contain the horrific fire that engulfed the property. Time really was of the essence, as there was an entire family trapped inside. Many would have presumed at the time that this was just a tragic accident. However, the truth of what happened is absolutely sickening. Inside the home was 37-year-old mother Michelle Pearson. Her children were also trapped: 8-year-old Brandon, 15-year-old Demi, and 7-year-old Lacey, and 3-year-old Leah. Despite the fire service's best efforts, the eldest 3 children passed away in the fire. The 3-year-old was rushed to hospital but tragically died 2 days later. Mum Michelle was rushed to hospital and had to receive extensive medical treatment for her horrific injuries. She remained in a coma and had to be kept in hospital until March 2019. She tragically died on the 25th of August 2019. The horrifying deaths were a result of these 3 individuals: Zach Bolland, David Worrell, and Courtney Brierley. Terrifyingly, the trio had made homemade petrol devices in the kitchen of a nearby address. On the night in question, Courtney remained in the car while the 2 men smashed through the window of the victim's home. They then threw the devices inside the kitchen and the living room. Now, I have never heard of this happening before, but the fire spread so quickly and the heat was so intense that the smoke alarms melted before even having chance to alert the family. Zach and David were jailed for a combined total of 77 years. Courtney pleaded guilty to manslaughter and got just 12 years in jail.
This is the bear video, one of the worst animal attacks caught on camera explained. The local forest department of this village organized this bear hunt because of the bear attacks against humans in the area. The man in the video was tracking the bear for a while and even set up a trap, but he was ambushed and mauled. The victim's piercing screams alerted his colleagues, who would rush to the scene, and one of the victim's fellow hunters filmed the gruesome encounter. As you play the video, you see the man laid out on the floor wearing a green jacket with the female sloth bear on top of him, and immediately you hear the victim's awful screams, and these screams are way different from any of the screams you will ever hear. The camera zooms in and you see the bear has almost mounted the victim and has its jaws locked around the victim's face. And it seems the bear is going for the throat. Loud commotion can be heard in the background, and the crowd tries to stop the bear from attacking by firing their guns and throwing stones at it. As the victim wrestles underneath the bear, you see some of his injuries. His face and throat are covered in blood, and the ground is also stained with blood. You can see the bear bite his face and pull, ripping a piece of flesh from his face. The bear then shakes its head to get the blood off its face, and it then goes in for another bite, and this time, biting the man's throat and pulling away sharply, and it appears as a piece of flesh hanging from the victim's head. The video then ends as the mauling is still taking place. There's rumors that there's a longer version of this video, but I haven't seen it yet. According to reports, the attack lasted about 10 minutes until the bear was finally shot and killed, but the injuries the victim had would result in his death. I don't recommend looking for this video, mainly because of the graphic nature, but also because the screams of the victim are definitely the worst screams you will ever hear. Just imagine being attacked by a bear and being pinned down underneath it. Wow, it just rips you apart and there's nothing you can do. The thought of that is just absolutely horrific.
You will never in a million years be able to guess what he's listening to, but this is one of the darkest moments I've ever seen in a documentary. So this moment happens in a documentary called Grizzly Man, which is about this man, Timothy Treadwell, who lives with grizzly bears in Alaska during the summer season. But then in October of 2003, Timothy and his girlfriend Amy are attacked and eaten by one of the grizzly bears. Right as the attack started though, Amy turns on the camera that the couple brought with them. It's a camera just like this, and when she turns it on, apparently the lens cap was still on the camera, so nothing could be seen, but according to the coroner's office, the entire attack was recorded and could be listened to. And that's where we get this scene in the documentary. So no one has listened to this tape besides the coroner, including Timothy's best friend, but the documentarian, Werner Herzog, is listening to the tape for the first time. We don't hear what's happening, which is almost worse because it lets our imagination fill in the gaps, but you can see that Werner gets visibly upset while listening to it, and he's not an easily shaken guy. He doesn't tell Timothy's friend everything that's on the tape, but he does say that Timothy was screaming for Amy to leave because he didn't want her to stick around and watch what was going to happen, but she wasn't able to get out in time. And he does have this advice for Timothy's friend.
I think you should not keep it, you should destroy it.
Yeah. The documentary is a fantastic but intense watch. And then if you want more, I actually just did an episode on another subject that Werner made a documentary about. It's about Juliana Kopka and her insane escape from the Amazon rainforest after she was in a plane that fell apart in the sky. Definitely check that out if you want more.
If you ever see this chair for sale, do not buy it. The story behind this chair is absolutely horrific. So recently in Australia, these chairs have been popping up on Facebook Marketplace. For an average person looking at it, it seems to be a solidly built, finely polished chair. One chair costs $1,700 and two chairs is $3,200. And here's the description. You cannot buy these in the shops. They are made from top quality marine ply, hand finished, so no chair is exactly the same as any other. And I really do feel bad for people who bought these chairs not knowing the history of them. Well, it turns out these chairs were made in prison by one of the most psychopathic murderers to ever haunt Australia. The killer's name is William Patrick Mitchell, and in 1993 he committed a horrific family massacre with an axe. On that day, William went to target a woman who had rejected his advances. Her name was Karen Mackenzie, but when William got to Karen's home, he saw her 16-year-old son Daniel in the driveway, and he immediately murdered Daniel in the driveway with an axe. He then went inside the home, assaulted Karen, and murdered her with the axe as well, before he went to the bedroom of her 7- and 5-year-old daughters, Amara and Katrina. William then assaulted the 7-year-old Amara and then killed both of those girls in their beds with the axe as well. Now this crime is notorious because the Australian authorities have not released the full details of what happened. The authorities themselves claim that the true details are too grisly, too graphic, that the public can't handle them. I've never heard of something like this, but that is truly shocking and, yes, disturbing. So obviously it's a little disturbing that prison guards are selling these chairs handmade by a family axe murderer on Facebook Marketplace and pocketing extreme loads of cash off of them. Now, I read a news report that came out recently about how family members of the victims are extremely upset that prison guards are making money off of these chairs made by their family member's killer. And yeah, I just couldn't imagine having already purchased one of these chairs and then reading a news article like this. Because what the seller didn't include on this Facebook Marketplace listing is that the chair was handcrafted by an axe murderer.
They ignored their son's mental health struggles, and the result was deadly. James Crumbley, father of Ethan Crumbley, has just been found guilty of all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. After nearly a week-long trial to determine if the father holds any responsibility for his son's crimes, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict for his role in this event, where his son unalived 4 students and injured 7 others on November 30th, 2021. This conviction comes after a jury found his wife, Jennifer Crumbley, guilty of the same charges last month. They were both accused of not safely storing the weapon away from their son or getting their son the help he needed for his mental health struggles. Ethan was not only known to carry around a baby bird's head in a jar, but the day before the event, he also brought ammunition to school and displayed it on his desk. Hours later, he tweeted, "Now I become death, the destroyer of worlds. See you tomorrow, Oxford." On the morning of the event, his mother saw him watching violent videos depicting people being unalived in the same manner. The day of, both parents met with a school counselor about concerns over their son's mental health after a teacher found drawings on his homework sheet that said things like, "The thoughts won't stop, help me, my life is over," and "blood everywhere." Instead of getting their son help, the parents bought him the weapon that would go on to take the lives of his fellow classmates. The day they met with counselors, parents James and Jennifer were asked to take their son Ethan home. They refused, and a few hours later, 4 students were unalived and 7 others injured. The parents then attempted to flee. Both Jennifer and James will be sentenced on April 9th. The parents of the victims hope that the outcome of this case helps prevent these types of events in the future.
I thought I had heard about all the worst cults, but nothing prepared me for this one. This is the Chijon family, a cannibal gang in South Korea hell-bent on literally eating the rich. So back in the early 90s, this group of guys bought a house in Bulgat-Mayon in the southwest of Korea. They christened it their murder house, and this is what they did to the basement. There were not many houses in the area, so they could go undetected for a while, but this was an incinerator that they built, and these were 2 jail cells. And before I dive in, if you want a full overview on this group, definitely listen to this week's episode of Heart Starts Pounding. See, they were working low-wage construction jobs, and they thought that the world had been corrupted by the rich. So their plan was to kidnap as many rich people as they could, hold them in these jail cells until they paid as much money as was possible, and then they would kill them and put them in this incinerator, and occasionally they would eat them. The only problem was these guys were kind of dumb, and they had a lot of trouble actually identifying rich people. So they ended up kidnapping and killing a bunch of poor or middle-class Korean civilians. There was one couple that they kidnapped from a wealthy area, but it turned out that the couple themselves didn't have much money. The husband ended up still giving a bunch of money to the gang, but at the end of the day it didn't matter, and they were still killed and put in this incinerator. And then afterwards they held a big barbecue for the whole neighborhood. There is so much to this story, like it doesn't do justice to just tell it here, so I highly recommend listening to this week's episode of Heart Starts Pounding.
These 2 sisters were killed just days apart in 2 separate tragedies. Karen Garcia was a 21-year-old mother from California. She had a 2-year-old child with her ex, Salvador Garcia Jr., who she had been with previously for 9 years. On the 7th of January 2018, Karen's sister Jessica was tragically killed in a car accident. Jessica was only 19 years old when she had been traveling from a Denny's near her home. 4 of her friends were also killed with her in the car. When Karen vanished 2 days later, family felt it may have been related to her sister's death. They wondered if she was just really struggling mentally and needed some time to be on her own. However, her already grieving family were dealt another horrifying blow when police started searching Karen's home. She was reported missing, and police had to tell the family that they had reason to believe that she had been killed. Police immediately had a suspect, and it was her ex, Salvador. Word actually got out that police were hunting for him, and he went on the run. Salvador's neighbour reportedly saw Karen on the 8th of January when she'd been collecting her things. She'd been in the process of moving things out of that apartment, and the neighbour never saw her again. The following day, the neighbour said that he went inside of the apartment and saw a big red stain. There was also blood spatter on the walls and drawers, so he rang police. Investigators also discovered drag marks at the property, indicating that a victim had been removed from the house. Tragically, Karen's body was discovered in her own car in a car park in Colusa. She was, quote, in the driver's seat of her car in a reclining position with her face down and obscured by her hair. She was covered with a sweater and had her charging cell phone perched on one hip to appear as if she was napping. The autopsy showed that she died from blunt force trauma to her head. Police were working on a theory that Salvador may have killed Karen because he couldn't accept their breakup. Frustratingly, due to him being on the run, it would take over a year for police to track him down in Mexico. In August 2019, they managed to arrest him and he was transferred back to California. There, he was charged with Karen's murder. In court, texts were revealed between the pair that showed that Karen had broke up with him. He was refusing to accept the fact that things were over. In 2020, he pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and got 25 years in prison.
This streamer killed his girlfriend while live streaming, and it's one of the most disturbing things ever streamed. Stanislav Reshnikov, who was on the left as a vlogger/streamer, was famously known as Stas Reflay, and he inflicted inhumane physical abuse on his pregnant girlfriend, Valentina Grigorieva, who was on the right when a viewer asked him to do so for merely $1,000 in his YouTube live video. Valentina's beating was followed by Stas stripping her naked and forcefully locking her outside of the house in sub-zero temperatures of December. Valentina kept on knocking on the door, telling him that she was going to die. After 15 minutes, Stas checked on Valentina as she stopped knocking on the door. He then found Valentina's unconscious, not breathing, and pale body. Stas made a failed attempt at resurrecting his girlfriend by giving her CPR. Eventually, he grew very scared of what he had done and called the paramedic team. In the footage, he can be seen carrying her back into his apartment trying to revive her. He is heard saying, "Velia, are you alive? My bunny, what's up with you? Velia, damn, you look like you are dead. Bunny, come on, tell me something. I'm worrying. Damn, I'm not feeling a heartbeat, guys. No pulse, she's pale. She is not breathing. Wake up, Velia. I love you. Wake up." The paramedic team then arrived and announced Valentina dead upon examination. Initially, she was assumed to die from hypothermia. However, the forensic team revealed that Valentina had died from a head injury inflicted upon her during domestic violence. The police arrested Stas soon after he killed his pregnant girlfriend for money, and he was given a sentence of 6 years by the court in 2021. But what do you think about this? This man literally put his pregnant girlfriend outside in freezing cold temperatures for $1,000 because one of his viewers donated it and told him to. This is absolutely gut-turning, and the live stream, if you ever decide to watch it, is extremely unnerving, especially when her lifeless body gets brought into the live stream. Just hearing him talk to her and knowing that she's dead is extremely unsettling.